want everybody from this moment on to recognize me as the scholar of boxing.
You see, their morals, their code, it's a bad joke. It's dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
49 hours declaring a riot.
35 to 50 feet advised, County Police 1 advised decline of breaching into the Capitol.
Publicists, when you talk to your publicists, you know the first thing they tell you? What? Stay away from religion, stay away from politics. Okay. You know why? Why? No matter what the you say, somebody passionately disagrees with you.
Absolutely.
No matter what religion, you believe in Allah, then you're saying that's not the right way. You believe in every Christianity, that's not it, because they're choosing something different. Your political party, the Democrat, Republican, the disagreement completely. Yep. So I stay away from it. When I get pulled into politics, I go, yeah. And I have nothing to say. I'm just
the same way we are. We don't no politics, none of this.
I'll with that. I don't stay there because I'm still entertainment. If it's not music, then it's film and television, but it's still entertainment. So why would you turn someone off by saying that?
Right.
I want everybody to enjoy what I'm doing.
Right.
Not just a selective few amount of people. I focus on diversity because it's needed. Right.
The boxing scholar is a lover, not a fighter, but he's also a fighter, so don't get any ideas. If he pats you on the back, you'll put it in your resume. His enemy. Have him listed as an emergency contact. The scholar has an inside joke with complete strangers. If he punched you in the face, you'd have to fight the urge not to thank him. Sharks have a week dedicated to him. He's the only man alive to is parallel park. A train is count to infinity twice. In Genesis, when God said, "Let there be light," the scholars said, "Say pretty please." He is the genius of all genius and master of all masters.
And that's the trick to life. You have to be wise enough to know when you were living in your dream. And you have to be humble enough to accept when you're in someone else's.
Yo, the boxing scholar's on.
Let's go, baby. It's the G's of all G's, master of all masters. I gotta keep it down. The family's sleeping. But hey, yeah, it's the G's of all G's, master of all masters, man. We got a good one. Oh, man. You know, I like to prepare for my episodes. This should be a good one. Oh my God, are y'all having buyer's remorse now? Did y'all mess around and find out, Trump supporters? This is absolute madness what's going on. So if you haven't been up under a rock last couple hours, of course, Trump imposed his tax bill, called it the big, beautiful bill. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. The big, beautiful spending bill. And it's going to raise the deficit. And it's like, wait a minute. Didn't Elon Musk come in with Doge to prevent that? They were supposed to save us all this money, and black people thought they were getting checks from Donald Trump. All of this madness. Donald Trump came in with, we got to get rid of the bureaucracy. He spent more money in in 100 days than Joe Biden spent during a pandemic. That is absolute madness. Absolute madness. But I'm just here. I'm just here to present the facts because I know people gonna double down. Because when we tried to tell them about Project 2025, we was met with, oh, it's propaganda. They're not gonna implement it. And now that Medicare is being cut, Social Security is being cut, all the stuff that we told y'all that they were gonna cut, schools, Department of Education, how that was gonna negatively affect Black people, all the stuff we warned y'all about, it's now coming to pass. And I'm just willing to see if y'all willing to double down on y'all pride or wise up. You know what I mean? And make this not a loss. Make it a lesson. Make it where you got off this Democratic plantation and jump right into the frying pan, the seafood broil of Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not care about poor people. We tried to tell y'all this a long time ago. I don't understand how a group of poor people would think that Donald Trump would be their knight in shining armor because he used the word bureaucracy. That is absolutely hilarious. Donald Trump is doing exactly what we said he was going to do, which is implement Project 2025, and he's doing exactly what he's been doing his entire life: make the rich richer and rob from the poor to make the rich richer. As far as subsidies, the stock market, whatever you can do, it's a money grab. It's a monopoly game, and guess what? You guys didn't make it to the table. You guys are not going to eat off all that trickle down economic stuff that y'all fell for. That Reagan spewed during Reaganomics. Hey, it's a wrap for that because Donald Trump hasn't even hid his intentions.
Tim Cook has been seen supping solicitously at Mar-a-Lago, while Mark Zuckerberg has donated $1 million to the president-elect's inaugural budget.
I'm actually very optimistic this time around. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him.
He's going to help. World's richest man in America. He's going to help. If he's very enthusiastic about Donald Trump loosening up regulations. Every Republican president that gets in there, basic people say I vote for them because of taxes, and they don't even qualify for the tax breaks that will be beneficial for them voting for them. It's like the illusion in their head is, I'm gonna be rich one day, so I might as well start living and acting like a rich person so I can reap some of these benefits of this tax break. Because it's not gonna affect you. It's gonna affect the ultra rich. The regular people are still gonna have to pay taxes, probably at a higher rate. You know what I mean? Than rich people. That's how that goes. They look out for the ultra rich, the 1%. You're not in the 1%. And to make matters worse, right? We just found out that Joe Biden actually was struck with terminal cancer during his presidency, right? We don't know when he was actually had it, but Donald Trump would always talk about his cognitive decline and, all these things. And this is how Donald Trump went out and got people's vote. This is why I asked you to have buyer's remorse. This was his pitch on the economy.
I did have something I would show you. Wait a minute. I don't know if you've seen this. I used it once. Oh, I have it. I do have it. Look at this. Look at this. So, this is Tic Tacs, right? I don't know if I like the company. I've never met. I have no idea. They're so lucky. Look at all the television. This is the greatest commercial they ever had. But that's what happened. This is inflation.
Donald Trump explained inflation to his voters with Tic Tacs, told them the egg prices would come down, said day one he was going to stop the war and make the egg prices come down. Not only have the egg prices not come down, but Vladimir Putin is showing his natural you-know-what with Donald Trump in office. But besides those things, right? Besides those things, this entire cabinet has been a joke. It has been a joke, like seriously. Like Donald Trump coming from the background of Celebrity Apprentice and still keeping that mindset, it just shows me that the world is super duper corrupt right now. Like, I don't even mean corrupt in terms of money. I mean corrupted in terms of sense of reality. Like, they think reality TV is real and they think the president should go out there and run the world like reality TV.
Of Homeland Security is in talks with a reality TV show producer about a game show where immigrant contestants would compete for U.S. citizenship. According to the Wall Street Journal, television producer Rob Warsoff, the man behind Duck Dynasty, says he's been pitching the idea for the show as far back as the Obama administration, but the project hasn't come together. It's unclear how far along the process is, but in a statement, a Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said the proposed show has not been approved or denied. Warsoff says the show is meant to be hopeful that the contestants would be legal immigrants and that losing would not result in deportation. According to the DHS statement, the department gets hundreds of TV show pitches every year, and they all go through a thorough vetting process.
So the federal government has spent.
So there you heard it. Donald Trump is being pitched an idea about a real life Squid Game with immigrants. And he has not absolutely turned the idea down. You know why? Because he comes from reality TV and life is a game for him. He's been rich his entire life. Like even when he sat down with the African president, South African president, he was basically asking him if he could buy him a plane like the other guy did, and that would just solve everything. And it's like, bro, that's not how stuff works. Everybody hasn't been rich their entire life to just be given things. Like he doesn't even understand reality from a humane point of view because he's been rich his entire life. He did a whole campaign about how, you know, for Christmas, how people should get less dolls and how there were too many dolls. But this MFer wants a plane from every country in the world. Like make this make sense. Like I said, absolute madness, right? But I'm willing to step out on a limb and say that this cabinet that exists with the reality TV and all the other things has been the worst of all time. And I'm talking about Bush's administration where we had a recession. This is by far the worst. It is a group of people who are incompetent that are claiming that everybody who's black is incompetent and don't deserve their job because they're DEI hires, but they are the worst by far. Like, I mean, somewhere Nixon's rolling over in his grave. What? Trump did what? He said what? Like bro, Trump's scandals make Nixon's scandals look like Mother Teresa's good deeds. Like this is absolute madness. Denying court orders that bring people back. Like just everything, every step of the way, he has an impeachable offense and he does not abide by it. He does whatever he wants to when he wants to. But like I said, this is the most incompetent administration ever. I mean, from planes falling out of the sky. I mean, from all of that stuff. Like, it is absolute madness.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem made headlines during her testimony to the Senate Homeland Security Committee Tuesday when she incorrectly answered what the fundamental U.S. right known as habeas corpus means.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
The concept of habeas corpus dates back to the Magna Carta. It is the right of prisoners to challenge their imprisonment, allowing them to ask a judge to issue a writ of habeas corpus, essentially a court order, demanding that whoever is detaining them prove in court that their detention is lawful. If a judge finds that is not the case, the prisoner must be freed. This right is explicitly granted in the first article of the Constitution, saying, quote, the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. The Supreme Court has consistently upheld this right and says it extends to both citizens and non-citizens. For example, activist Mahmoud Khalil, a lawful permanent resident whose status has been revoked by the government because he took part in pro-Palestinian protests and is currently detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, filed a habeas corpus petition challenging his detention. In 2008, the Supreme Court also extended this right to non-citizens detained at Guantanamo Bay. The protection has only been suspended legally 4 times in American history, and only with congressional approval, according to the National Constitution Center. During the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln suspended it throughout the United States, and Congress later passed a law legalizing Lincoln's decision. Congress authorized the president at the time to suspend habeas corpus 3 other times during Reconstruction in certain parts of South Carolina, during a 1905 insurrection attempt in the Philippines.
And mind you, Kristi Noem. This is Kristi Noem, right? Let me rewind it. This is Kristi Noem, the Secretary on Homeland Security, not knowing the answer to this. This is crazy. Like, how are you able to swear to the Constitution and not even know the laws of Homeland Security, and you're going to be deporting people? You remember that border czar job that they told y'all that Kamala Harris was supposed to have? Well, Homeland Security's job is really to be a border czar, in a sense. And you kind of want to know the rights of the people that you're deporting, or the rights that they might not have if you're deporting them, and if you're not going to be a dictator. Absolute madness.
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am.
Suspend their
Habeas
right to.
corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
The concept of
Again. My bad. I muted my mic by accident. What's up, Philip H? What's up, everybody in the chat? So again, this is the director of the Secretary of Homeland Defense. That is absolutely absolute madness. But anyway, like I said, the most incompetent administration of all time. You remember all that rhetoric about whenever Donald Trump was running about, hey, he's going to release these JFK files. He's going to get the people on the Epstein list. He's going to go hard at these people. Man, let me tell you, Donald Trump he's something different. We've never seen anything like this. They described Donald Trump as if he was the Tom Brady of presidency, right? And he was going to go after these Epstein people hard. And when the people who know, right, the people who know, said that nothing's going to happen to the conspiracy theorists, right? The conspiracy theorists argued hard and said that, yes, Donald Trump is going to do something. And this is how I know. Listen, I don't even believe there's a mass conspiracy, but even if there was, he wouldn't do anything about it. And this is how I know.
Since becoming president, Donald Trump has branded Mar-a-Lago the Southern White House. But in the 90s, Mar-a-Lago was Trump's South Florida party palace, one frequented by Jeffrey Epstein, who is facing charges for sex trafficking. He has pleaded not guilty. The president says his relationship with Epstein was no different than anyone else in their elite circle.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years.
Yet, a tape in the NBC archives of a Mar-a-Lago party shows Trump giving Epstein his personal attention. The footage, shot in November of 1992, before Trump opened the resort as a club, shows the future president surrounded by cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, capturing Trump's fun-loving bachelor lifestyle for an appearance on Faith Daniels' NBC talk show.
We're going to get great ratings on your show.
After a while, Trump goes to greet 3 new guests, among them the financier Jeffrey Epstein, more than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges.
Donald Trump knew the cameras were there. In the video, he makes a point to draw Epstein's attention to them. And the video captures Donald Trump and Epstein chatting while watching a group of women at the party dance. It's not an image that matches Trump's declaration that he was not a fan of Epstein's. He said, quote, he's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So even that, I mean, to Bob Costa's point, in 2002, Trump had knowledge that Epstein liked women who were, quote, on.
No, that's how I knew the list wasn't going to come out. If there is a mass cover-up and conspiracy, Donald Trump's name will be on the list. But to make matters worse, right? We got Dan, and we got Kash Patel, right? The people who before they became the FBI director and people in high positions, they held these conspiracy theories arguments, right? About the Epstein list and about what's going on behind closed doors. So let me show you a video of Dan with his conspiracies and his stories and the who's. You just gotta know. My sources, trust me, bro. Trust me. There we go. Oh wow. Let me share the screen real quick. My sources, trust me, bro. You just gotta trust me, bro. Here we go.
Epstein thing, I got a lot to talk. This Epstein thing really kind of like it's like a tick burrowing under my skin. I get a call.
Let's go.
Yeah, this is gonna get hairy. You guys ready?
Yes.
No more school.
Yes.
This is like live YouTube. You ready for this? I don't know if you guys are ready. I get a call, I don't know, about 4 years ago. It's from, let's say, a friend, prior line of work thing, right? Guy says, listen, and this guy who calls me is an unimpeachable source. This guy's not like some ham and egg or tomato can guy throwing out some theory about a UFO he saw 72 years ago, whatever. This is like a legit, no nonsense guy. Guy you trust with your, wife, kid, and car, right? He says, I got sent on a temporary assignment once. And on that assignment, I got sent out with the WCD detail, William Clinton detail. And I knew this guy well. And he says, Dan, I got to share this with someone. He says, I go on a plane and Bill, Clinton gets on the plane with this guy. And it turns out later, the guy's Epstein. Now, this guy I'm talking to, this source, he don't know who Jeffrey Epstein is. He's just getting on the plane doing the thing, the whole, protection gig, right? He says, I get on the plane and there are these girls who are obviously not of age who are on this plane. They're clearly young. These are not women. These are girls. And he says, I see Clinton disappear into the back he goes, I don't know what happened. I'm not saying what happened because all I know is he disappeared and these girls were back there or whatever. And he said they land at the next stop, wherever it was. And he goes up to the boss on the detail and he says, I ain't getting back on this plane. Because he's a temp. He's not used to whatever Clinton was up to with the whole shenanigans thing. And this guy's clear as the driven snowman. He don't want to mess around with this. He says, whatever just happened back there, I don't want any piece of it. They sent him home. They sent that guy home and he's never tempted to that detail again. Now, remember all those Blackberries on that detail. Here's where the story gets super weird. The guy tells me, months or a couple weeks later, when you lose property in the Secret Service, an email goes out. It'll say hey, I lost his phone. And it gets logged into NCIC or whatever it is. And everybody knows. So basically, if you find this guy's gun, God forbid, or his phone, it's now effectively stolen property, right? All of a sudden, all the Blackberries on that detail for the agents start showing up oh, this guy lost his Blackberry. Holy shit. Wow, that's so crazy. How'd that happen? I'm like, no. He says, yes. He says it was the craziest thing. Oh, look, Agent Joey Bag of Donuts, missing Blackberry. This is around the whole time, the Clinton thing's going on. So fast forward this story, right? He tells me that about a year and a half after that, I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but not who they are. Says, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that? The person, let's say, is I'm absolutely sure of that he's either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, meaning his plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source. These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know. But this person, who's a very, very good reporter, aces, right? Swore Epstein was either a witting or unwitting intelligence asset, and they may have had his plane wired up, and they're the ones who have all this stuff. So the point is, to sum it up, how do you know some of these countries aren't going to some of these power players who aren't making decisions? Because, hey, you wouldn't want this video out there, right? How do you know?
100%.
Let's get personal with Mr. Gates, though. If this is a story of an adult man having adult relations with an adult female outside of his marriage, is it the biggest deal in the world that needs to be made public? You know what I mean? What I'm interested in is the underage stuff, the creepos, that evidence coming out. I'm worried that they're doing this with the Bill Gates thing as like red meat, like, oh, look, oh, yeah. And it's like, it's not a criminal issue. It's a personal scandal. It's like, oh, wow, Bill Gates looks bad. But what about the Maxwell stuff? What about the actual client list? I don't think we should be satisfied by what we're hearing, and we should obviously want more.
I think you're totally right. I think that the actual crimes that they committed.
Now, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's one of the times that, Dan has been on his conspiracy stuff, insinuating that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, and it was a part of a large a conspiracy and cover up because there were so many different power plays involved. And something happened. Somebody came to Jesus on the truth, and it rhymes with hand. Yeah, you guessed it right. It was Dan.
Words for fellow travelers. The reason is, she says it. Right-wing political commentator Mindy Robinson going after FBI Director Kash Patel and his deputy Dan Bongino, calling them in a post on X, quote, effing sellouts. Strong words for fellow travelers. The reason is, she says it there in her next line, Epstein didn't kill himself. That's what they're saying.
She's one of many in the MAGA world blasting the Bureau's brass after they gave this answer about the controversial death over the weekend on Maria Bartiromo's show. Take a listen.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
This is a 180 for Patel and Bongino. In the past, both have given credit to the idea that there's more to Epstein's death than a basic suicide.
And even some supporters of the duo are saying that they are not buying this official line. Alex Jones said in a post on X, overall, I think Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are doing a great job, but on this claim that Epstein's death is not a cover-up, I call BS. So, yeah, some people who have closely scrutinized the death of Jeffrey Epstein are not put at ease, even though they generally like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. Look, I have always said that I understand why people find the circumstances.
Now, so many things to unpack there. This is why people always say, why do you have such a problem with conspiracy theories? I see them ask Reggie this all the time, and this is why conspiracy theorists have a position, and their position is not deep rooted in facts or knowing enough. It's just raising questions. But then when you present them with evidence that goes against their conspiracy, they won't accept it, right? You have two nut jobs in Dan and Kash Patel who were deniers of it, who frequently said that it was part of a larger cover-up. Now that they are in the FBI, they have access to, guess what? Information. And now that they have access to information, they have changed their tune on this being some type of mass cover-up. So that just lets me know that conspiracy theorists don't know enough about a subject or don't have the proper information to be informed and make an informed, intelligent decision. Like so now the base of Republicans, and because those are normally the conspiracy theories, but the base, they're turning on them. They're eating themselves alive. Like they're turning on those guys. Oh, they sold out. They did this. It's like, wait a minute. How did they sell out in the Trump administration, who got rid of and cut all the fat of bureaucracy out and got rid of, people who they felt like were double agents or are part of the bureaucracy? So they already eliminated those people. How are those people still left? And how are those people still part of a MAGA? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But like I said, this administration, it just takes the cake. It takes the cake as far as nut jobs, getting jobs. It takes the cake as far as unqualified people getting positions, hollering about black people who are qualified getting those same positions, calling them DEI, and saying that if there was a black pilot, I would probably be scared that the plane was going to crash. This is what they say. They say crazy stuff like this, like there was a black pilot.
DEI breeds complacency, Dana, and complacency kills.
We're going to have doctors who don't know how to perform heart surgery, and we're going to have planes that are falling out of the sky.
Boeing recently bragged not about being the best in the business, but about surpassing its diversity quotas. Goody. But then, not so good, a door flying off one of Boeing's 737 Supermaxes.
I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Boy, I hope he's qualified. You can't make this up. This is so crazy. And this administration is the one that's hollering about their qualifications. And literally planes are falling out of the sky like daily. This is these stuff you cannot make it up. Like I want tomorrow us to all wake up and just realize that, COVID was an experiment by aliens to test our morality, and that, we can continue on with regular life, because this cannot be real life. This is absolute madness. To make matters worse, RFK, you remember that guy? The guy who talked like this and had brain worms that is responsible for millions of America's health and over the CDC? That guy? Well, he was questioned. That's why I say this administration is the most horrible administration that I've ever seen. Like, it's only been 100 days. Normally, when you see scandal, it's over their 4-year term, or if they do 2 terms, their 8-year term. This is over 100 days. This is absolute madness.
Previously said you vaccinated your children. Just because I think this is a helpful answer, and this isn't a gotcha, I promise. If you had a child today, would you vaccinate that child for measles?
For measles, probably for measles. What I would say is my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. I have directed Jay Bhattacharya.
Sure. No, like I said, I don't want to.
So that everybody can make that decision. But I don't want to seem like I'm being evasive.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me.
Right. No, I got that. And I'm not asking you to give them medical advice, but would you vaccinate?
I don't think people should be taking medical advice. Medical advice from, oh my God. He didn't just say that, right? From the guy who oversees the Department of Health and Human Services. Like, oh my God, what do we do? Where are we at? Because anybody tell me where we are right now in life? Are we trapped inside of a bubble, inside of a sea? It's just drifting away from the galaxy. Like, what is going on? Like, what? Oh my God, this is crazy. You know how they say, like, old people rolling over in their graves? Like I said, Nixon is rolling over like scandal. I told you I didn't do any scandal. Like what is going on? Like, this group, oh my God, it's just Trump's friends. Like, Vince McMahon's wife is in charge of the Department of Education that he wants to get rid of. Vince McMahon's wife, how did she get that job? He's hiring people from TV shows. Remember in the first term, it was Omarosa that did the show with him. It's just like, it's so crazy to me. I cannot. Oh my God, I can't even grasp how stupid this administration is. You probably shouldn't be getting out there. Like, who should we get it from? The overseer of the Department of Health of Human Services? Who else should give the advice? Grandma? Who? Trump? The stable genius with the Tic Tacs? Stuff you cannot make up. Like I said, it's crazy.
No,
Your
and
child
I
for
think
measles.
if I answer that question directly, that it will seem like I'm giving advice to other people, and I don't want to be doing that. I want people to make.
But that's
their
kind of
own.
your jurisdiction, because CDC does give advice, right? I'm
Well,
not trying to do it as a gotcha. I was just gonna,
What I think what we're going to try to do is to lay out the pros and cons, the risks and benefits accurately as we understand them.
Okay.
With replicable studies.
Can you talk about chickenpox? Would you vaccinate your child against chickenpox?
I don't want to give advice. I can tell you in Europe, they don't use the chickenpox vaccine specifically.
Like I said, now that is the guy that said that he would find the source of autism and actually gave a date. The guy that's not going to give medical advice. You can't make this up. that guy is going to pinpoint autism, even though scientists has been trying to pinpoint autism, you know what I mean, since forever. You know, he's going to come in, the guy that don't give medical advice, ain't in the labs or anything. You don't even got a lab coat because he don't want to get no medical advice. He's not the wrong guy. He's the wrong guy to get medical advice from, but he going to pinpoint that autism. Like, bro, maybe start at a mirror. Maybe that's a good reference point. Maybe start with a mirror, RFK. But yes, like I said, man, the most incompetent administration I've ever seen. Like I said, it's only been 100 days. You guys think it's going to get better or worse? Like I said, it's absolute madness. Not to mention this guy. I never covered this because I was getting, but they even came up with a term. Trump supporters came up with a term called Trump derangement syndrome. And this is the funniest part about it. Take, in the words of RFK, don't give medical advice, because especially you people. You guys voted for Mr. Orange Man with that messed up toupee skunk on his head, right? And who looks in bad health is dang self, right? You guys voted for that guy. But the Trump derangement syndrome is not us. It's you guys. So good job at identifying the problem. The problem is, yes, Trump derangement syndrome, but it's not us. It's y'all.
Just coming in. Sources say Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is said to have shared sensitive details about the strike in Yemen targeting Houthis in a second Signal group chat on March 15th that included his wife and brother, among others. This comes just weeks after Hegseth and officials mistakenly added an editor from The Atlantic to a group chat. Let's bring in ABC's Alex Perche. Alex, what's the latest that you're learning tonight?
Lindsay, tonight, two sources confirmed to ABC News that report by the New York Times that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared military operation details to a group chat of family and friends titled Defense Team Huddle. In this private Signal chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer, the defense secretary shared specifics, including flight schedules of a strike in Yemen targeting Houthis back in March. The secretary's brother, Phil, and his lawyer, Tim Parlator, both have jobs at the Pentagon. Hegseth's wife is not a Defense Department employee, and none of them have any apparent reason to be briefed on military operations. This information reportedly shared is essentially the same attack plans he posted in a separate Signal chat that included the editor of The Atlantic. But unlike that chat, this one was created by Secretary Hegseth, and he reportedly used his private phone rather than his government one to access that chat. Now, Lindsay, tonight, ABC News has reached out to the National Security Council, also the White House. We have not heard back yet for comment, but this is certainly to raise questions about security protocol. Lindsay?
That is definitely the case. Alex, thank you.
It's so bananas that people dump real money into these coins.
Now, that, right? Pete shared sensitive material and added a news reporter, right? Which was a fake news, right? And the guy that he added, he insulted after he reported that, the airstrikes to the news. And he was so in disbelief that Pete would be this incompetent to send it to him that he didn't even act on it because he thought it was fake. And thank God, because had he reported on it, the Houthis would have had a warning that the airstrikes was coming. And it's just like, bro, how do you make a mistake that crucial and still get to keep your job? That right there. We talk about trickle down economics. Let's talk about the tone being set. It's because the guy that's in charge is just as incompetent as the people that work for him. You know what I mean? And in the words of Forrest Gump, stupid is and stupid does. The whole administration. And then you got people in my chat, like this guy still talking about Kamala. What does Kamala have to do with Trump? He won. He's the president. Why would you talk about the non-president while the president's in office? This is so crazy because when we had debates where they were actually running, y'all would pull up and say, hey, do me a favor. Say something that Kamala's going to do without saying something bad about Trump. This is the conversations we had with y'all geniuses, right? And now that Trump is the actual president and he's signing executive orders left and right, just scribbling that little sloppy handwriting that he got on everything. Now You proud that you voted for Kamala? What are you talking about, bro? Let's focus on Donald Trump and his policies, please. And then you got other people saying, well, you keep cutting the clips off. Listen, we're not in school anymore. I can't highlight stuff for you. This is not ESL. This is not content mastery, CMC. I can't walk you through what you're supposed to see. None of these clips have been taken out of context. The context is there. We know about the RFK. We know about Donald Trump and Epstein. We know about all of this stuff. If you don't, and you're on your phone watching this video and you don't bother to look it up, you're already compromised. You already have your mind made up. There's no point in even being here. All you're going to do is spam chat with Trump 2028 or what do y'all want him? Trump forever? Because y'all ain't even got a problem with him shredding the Constitution saying he wants a third term. And he ain't even made it. He hasn't even made it, you know what I mean, through the first 100 days with a good approval rating. But y'all want him to be the president forever. Luckily for us, the guy is old and he's not in good health. That's neither here nor there. So I wanted to say this, right? I remember Elon Musk and Donald Trump having a little bit of a what you call romance. And I remember telling everybody that romance would not last. It would not last. Too much egos involved. And what they were doing actually was not gonna work. You know what I mean? But nobody believed me. So here we go. Donald Trump and Elon. Elon fires all of Twitter, right? Fires all of Twitter using the Elon Musk strategy, right?
And just laid off nearly 700 employees. Qualcomm is planning to cut more than 1,200 jobs. Google, Amazon, and Snap are among the companies continuing to downsize.
And the start of 2024 seems no different as layoff announcements, especially in the tech industry, continue to make headlines.
Units affected, they also include hardware, engineering, ad sales. So far, last night, CEO Sundar Pichai told his workforce to expect more cuts. An Amazon spokesperson did confirm those layoffs. The head of Prime and Prime Video and MGM saying in that memo that the company is making some of the cuts to prioritize investments for the long term.
Of Twitter either left or quit or was pushed out, laid off, whatever you want to call it, and yet the website still runs. Of Twitter either left or quit or was pushed out, laid off, whatever you want to call it, and yet the website still runs. Do you think people are looking at Elon Musk and thinking, you know what? Do we really need all these people?
I do give Elon Musk credit for this, for kicking off and making this acceptable with Twitter, but a lot of the big companies decided to get lean and efficient. And this is where you kind of start to see the incredible leverage of what these tech platforms really have, which is they didn't need those people, right? They were hoarding the talent. It was an option bet, and it was a cheap one for them.
Yeah, I ask every tech CEO, do you take inspiration for what Elon does? Yeah. And they'll say on the record, no, we don't. We would never want to do that. But, in the group chats, they're all like, wow, that was an...
So yeah, in the group chats, everybody's like, yeah, that Elon Musk strategy is something. And it made it all the way to Donald Trump's desk, to where Donald Trump, and here's the funniest part about it. The country that has a mandate that literally says that they hate immigrants went and employed an immigrant to take American jobs. Ain't that the whole premise of America First? They're mad at these immigrants taking American jobs, and then Elon Musk's strategy is literally firing and taking American jobs. And then the guy who's the king, third generation immigrant, who's the king, German immigrant, who's the king of hating immigrants, goes and meets up with Elon Musk, and they have a very productive conversation.
I look at what you do. You walk in. You just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it.
So that was during their Twitter interview that started buffering and crashing because there wasn't enough human beings there to make sure that doesn't happen, right? He basically propositioned Elon Musk then for something that would be later known as Doge, right? And it's so funny that when Joe Biden was running and he dropped down and Kamala Harris took over, they were crying about it being a coup. You remember that?
Well, democracy is dead in the Democratic Party. The elitist coup led by Washington, D.C., Hollywood elitists, Democratic big money donors. It worked.
Hijacked democracy.
The ultimate election interference.
This was a coup inside the Democratic Party.
A coup d'etat. A bloodless coup.
What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different. Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
What's happening?
So that was part of the interview with Donald Trump and Elon Musk on Twitter, where they were saying it was a coup and how, a mass takeover. And then right shortly after that, after Donald Trump runs, fast forward a little bit, a couple days in office, we see what a real coup looks like. And a real coup looks like Doge taking over federal buildings.
My colleagues are getting 15-minute one-on-one check-ins with 19, 20, and 21-year-old college graduates asking to justify their existence. One of Musk's top lieutenants and his wife and young child have shacked up on the 6th floor of our agency and now are living there.
The Doge workers, some of them being with names like Big Balls.
Employment histories.
Another Doge worker, Edward Korstein, who called himself Big Balls on social media, was fired from an internship with a data security firm called Path Network in 2022, accused of leaking information to a competitor. A spokesperson telling CNN his contract was terminated after the conclusion of an internal investigation into the leaking of proprietary company information that coincided with his tenure.
Now, this unconstitutional private company that was taking the jobs of veterans, of Americans, taking American jobs, which y'all claim what immigrants do, which is what Elon Musk did at Twitter. So he hired the immigrant to do it for the United States, right? That guy is just as incompetent as any of the people I showed you today, whether it be them not understanding what habeas corpus is, or any one of those guys that you should ask me for health advice. He's just as incompetent.
We will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately.
Oops, got rid of Ebola and restored Ebola immediately. Hey, that's what a competent person does. You wouldn't even get rid of something that's that important if you were competent, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, right? So, yeah, so Doge comes in, and then Doge takes American jobs, fires American workers, right? And then not to mention that they lied to the public about how much money they were saving.
So could you mention some of
the White House is rolling out its wall of receipts on the Doge website, claiming an estimated $55 billion taxpayer dollars rescued through fraud detection, workforce reductions, regulatory savings, and more.
Not like a little bit, billions, tens of billions of dollars. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find.
But hold on. A closer look shows big problems. For example, Doge claimed axing a single immigration and customs contract saved $8 billion. Turns out that contract was worth a maximum of $8 million. And that was just a theoretical ceiling for the deal. Less than half that amount was actually slated to be spent. Doge corrected that error, but a CNN review of the more than 1,100 contracts listed on the Doge site found about 2/3 made similar inflated claims. And while this alleged outrage dug up by Doge grabbed headlines,
there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money.
That proved to be dead wrong, as Doge boss Elon Musk admitted.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected.
Still, even with the receipts not all adding up, Doge keeps filing reports of alleged widespread waste in aid to foreign countries, deals tied to diversity programs, and millions of dead people collecting Social Security.
And we've got people in there that are 150 years old.
Analysts say that most likely reflects Doge's misunderstanding of Social Security data, and a former federal official calls the notion laughably false.
He has no idea what he's talking about. There is not like a zombie apocalypse of people cadavers running around with Social Security checks coming out of their pockets.
So yeah, interestingly enough, Joe Rogan, right? We already know Joe Rogan thinks Elon Musk is the smartest human being, the real life Tony Stark. He was like, man, when he was sitting in front of me, he was just thinking about the future and Mars, and we couldn't even focus on the interview because he was so smart. And if you could draw the parallels between him and Einstein, I think he was talking to Einstein on the plane that Black Panther talks to his ancestors. Joe Rogan was just glazing this man up, right? Blazing him up. So of course, rich people, smart people like to be glazed up, right? And they want to keep the public perception to the conspiracy audience that they're outsiders, that they're going to come in and get rid of this wasteful spending and all this other stuff, bureaucracy and all this old crazy stuff, right? But Elon Musk was even surprised, right? This is when you know. Elon Musk was surprised that Donald Trump chose him. Said he never had any aspirations to be in government. That basically he's just as shocked as everybody else.
That you ever set out to do. This is not you didn't have this as a career aspiration. This is not
this is the most absurd outcome I can possibly imagine, actually. Also, like those
the most absurd. Yes, Elon. Oh, I agree. Let's go back.
Yeah.
What else
like it's
could
probably
be better?
a $1 trillion scam. There's never been a $1 trillion scam,
No, this is not something that you ever set out to do. This is not you didn't have this as a career aspiration. This is not
this is the most absurd outcome I can possibly imagine, actually. Also, like Doge started as like a sort of a meme coin,
right?
It was like a joke, cryptocurrency involving memes and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is so funny that the letters wound up being perfect.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was originally going to call it like the Government Efficiency Commission, which is a very boring name. And then people online were like, no, it needs to be the Department of Government Efficiency. And I was like, you know what? You're right.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more
playing like this is not a game. You're playing with people's lives. That's so crazy to me that they could just, you know how I came up with it. Let me tell you the story, Joe Rogan, and then the people came up, and this Doge just started off as a meme. Like, oh my God. Well, you tell that to the veterans who got fired by Doge. Oh wow. I don't even stick to boxing, bro. Let me guess. You're an expert. Listen. Here's the most funniest thing in the world. Because we about to show this clip. I don't care what they talking about. Flag the video, but we finna show this clip. Ain't nothing y'all can do about it. Especially these Trump supporters that don't want nobody to be exposed to the truth, to claim they're a party of truth. If you debate a Trump supporter, they will never run out of. There's not a shortage of geniuses in the Trump, in MAGA, right? They don't question anything Donald Trump does. Everything he does is approved by them. They hate, Russians. Russians are our enemy until Donald Trump is friends with Russia. Now all of a sudden Russians are good. Like they follow everything, and they swear that they are the most knowledgeable people at all times on every panel, every phone call, everything. But they are the most misinformed at all times on every subject. Every subject, they are the most misinformed. And it's sad because they have access to a computer. They don't bring up no facts. It's all feelings and what Donald Trump told. They pull up debating you with Donald Trump talking points. This is how smart these people is. And swear to God that they're the most informed at all times. That is absolute sad. That's absolutely sad. So, Doge. They did not save the money that they said they wouldn't say. They exaggerated, and there's proof that they were lying and stretching the numbers. But here's the actual factuals about Doge and if they could even save what they said they were going to save, because it was far-fetched that they could save anyway. So they did all this firing for basically nothing. And then Trump's tax bill basically contradicted everything that Elon Musk said he was trying to do, which caused the split between the two lovers, trouble in paradise. Now, if you're a Trump supporter, I know that this is the first time that you're probably hearing this. You probably never heard this before because you live in a bubble, and the bubble is Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, even though y'all don't like Jews. Ben Shapiro, the Daily Beast, whatever you own, it's those people's job to educate you on the facts. Candace Owens, you know what I mean? So y'all live in a bubble. But yeah, they definitely split up as of recently. But here we go.
The U.S. federal government employs roughly 2.4 million people across over 400 agencies. That's not including postal workers and active duty military personnel. President Trump has said he wants to decrease the size of that workforce by up to 10%, or 240,000 people. The effort to downsize the government has been led by Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. Tens of thousands of federal employees were laid off in recent weeks.
We were leaving work fully employed and coming back the next morning without a job.
But now the terminations are being challenged in court, and the administration has been ordered to issue sweeping job reinstatements.
Two federal courts on opposite coasts taking similar cases and coming to similar decisions here, ruling that the firings of so-called probationary workers were improper mass firings and ordering that tens of thousands of these workers be put back on their jobs.
It's unclear when reinstated employees will be asked to return to work, as some are reportedly being put on administrative leave. The Trump administration has also moved to dismantle entire agencies, such as the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and the Department of Education. But again, courts around the country are challenging the legality of those cuts.
This has been an extraordinary first part of the second Trump term. What's been most extraordinary is the way in which the new administration has fundamentally destroyed so much of the capability in our government.
At the center of it all, a narrative that the federal government is too large.
We're cutting down government. We're cutting down the size of government. We have to. We're bloated. We're sloppy. We have a lot of people that aren't doing their job.
Efforts to streamline the government workforce and cut down on spending are not new.
I am ordering a reduction of the federal bureaucracy by at least 100,000 positions over the next 4 years. The steps we're taking today will save the American taxpayers $9 billion.
There's no doubt that there's bloat.
Now, got to stop it right there, because the argument that people will use, which is what they always do, because like I said, they get their talking points elsewhere, is that Bill Clinton also cut jobs, right? Bill Clinton was bringing in revenue, right? And cutting jobs over 4 years, not the first 100 days of his presidency. And he didn't create a non-constitutional agency, private agency like Doge to do the cutting. So let this Bill Clinton, Donald Trump comparison, can we please stop? Can we please stop? He balanced the budget. Donald Trump is not going to balance the budget. He spent more in his first 100 days than Joe Biden did. And Joe Biden came in during the pandemic. So they're right there to let you know everything you need to know.
In some places, in some functions. But you got to identify it first. You don't just cut the whole thing. What they're going to have to do is they're cutting the whole thing, and they're going to have to go back and build again, right? The things that they cut out that in fact turn out to be essential.
So just how wasteful has the U.S. federal government become? And has it gotten worse over time? And will cutting government workers and programs actually make a dent in the nation's more than $1.8 trillion deficit? The first few months of the second Trump administration have been a roller coaster for federal employees impacted by mass layoffs.
I was one of the thousands of federal workers terminated this weekend. I have gone through the entire range of emotions this past weekend. There is a lot of sadness in my heart. There is also a lot of anger.
Roughly 24,000 workers received notices that their jobs were being terminated. Now, at least one court has ordered that the Trump administration rehire those employees. Beneath the chaos, a renewed debate around the size of government has emerged, which Trump claims is too large. But what do the numbers say? Here's a look at the federal workforce. The US government is the country's largest employer, with more workers on its payroll than Amazon or Walmart. Around 2.4 million people are on the federal payroll. That number doesn't include more than 600,000 US postal workers, government contractors, or active duty military personnel. More than 80% of those employees live outside the DC area, in places like California, Texas, and Florida. The Department of Veterans Affairs was the largest employer in 2024, followed by the Department of Homeland Security, the Army, and the Navy.
A lot of people just think of like.
Did you hear that? The people that the large. Let's run that back. Let's run that back. I don't want that to go over.
Texas, and Florida. The Department of Veterans Affairs was the largest employer in 2024.
That's the largest employer, right? Department of Veteran Affairs, right? I don't know if you guys remember this. You remember Jon Stewart fighting for the 9/11 victims to get their health care paid for by the government because they were trying not to pay it because they said that cancer didn't actually cause it and there's no proof. So they were playing a waiting game and hoping these people die out. Do y'all remember that? Do you remember him running a story one time about, them not processing disabled veterans, papers fast enough? And that was a big deal. Why are we using paper anyway in the age of technology? Because they don't want to give veterans their stuff. They're quick to make them veterans and get them injured, but they're not quick to give them the care that they need. You know what I mean? And those departments got cut by Doge. You think that's going to make us better off or worse off? Like, this is stuff you can't make sense of. And then the Homeland Security budget, right? That's second, right? Homeland Security. I thought y'all hated immigrants. We're about to go spend more money on ICE with this new Trump big beautiful bill on Homeland Security, but they're cutting it. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Followed by the Department of Homeland Security, the Army, and the Navy.
A lot of people just think of like white collar.
So defense, military defense, and veteran affairs and Homeland Security are a bulk of government jobs. And those are the jobs that people say need to be cut. Not to mention other jobs, like they said, mailman, the people who make sure that you don't have poop in your water. Those people, right? Those people have federal jobs. The idea that everybody that has a federal job is somehow corrupt, even though they swear to the Constitution, a lot of these people, which is why veterans make the easy transition over to a lot of these jobs because they still want to serve their country, is absolute madness. And everybody's just sitting by, just whistling in the wind, allowing this stuff to happen. That's the sickest part about this. The sickest part about that, right? So like I told you, we're going to show that veteran video. So here we go. This is the veteran talking about losing his job. 6,000 veterans were fired by Doge.
Let go, patient care ends up being delayed. And hypothetically, what if it is a veteran on that patient table and that instrument or that device can't be delivered because it didn't get there in a timely manner?
Mark Wagstaff is one of 6,000 veterans who have been fired from the federal government by Elon Musk and Doge.
Donald Trump has fired more veterans than any president in the history of the United States. In 6 weeks.
Obviously, with me being impacted, I'm downsizing my current living arrangement right now to make sure that I can still afford everything I need to afford and have a roof over my head, clothes on my back, food to eat.
Mark worked for the VA, coordinating healthcare supply logistics for his fellow vets.
I was supporting all the clinics, everything from the ER room to the operating room to just primary care, your basic checkups. When you talk about patient care, we're not just talking about benefits. We're not just talking about disability ratings where, making sure the veterans are compensated for their service and their disabilities. We talk about patient care just coming in to get a Band-Aid. Who's going to deliver that Band-Aid? We're stewards of the government's money, the taxpayer dollars, but also at the same time, we're doing our best to make those decisions on the best behalf of democracy.
VA healthcare has been thrown into chaos across the country as the Trump administration indiscriminately fires staff.
Patient care is being affected even in this moment as we speak. I'm still connected to my coworkers and friends that still work there. They're working overtime. They're being asked to work, on their day off. Patient care was ever growing in Southern Nevada. So we seen the demand of medical supplies being needed on the field to the point where we were working numerous overtime, working some of the weekends and everything like that. with that strategy, you know, we needed to hire more people.
As a Marine and federal employee, Wagstaff says he's always worked hard for his country. Doge and the Trump administration have been devastating to that ethos.
It makes you question, like, what good is public service if this is the way we're going to treat, you know, our civil servants in the government sector? We didn't just choose these careers. We still made an oath to the Constitution of the United States. We still raise our hand and take the oath just like any other active duty personnel. And I still stand on that. I'll support and defend this Constitution all day through. I will obey the orders of the President of the United States. But please, Mr. President, give us some guidelines. Give us the path of, you know, what you plan to do, long-term plans. Don't just keep making these decisions brash, you know, day in and day out with every.
I agree. Don't make these brash decisions. He can't help himself. He's in cognitive decline as he accused Joe Biden of being. This person said Bill Clinton increased the taxes and cut back on government spending because the House was controlled by the Republicans. Dude, what are you talking about? I don't even know what are you talking about? So I said the argument that people use is that Bill Clinton fired a lot of federal employees. That's the argument that they use, that this is not the first time that's been done. So I showed the video of him talking about over a course of 4 years. It was a 4-year plan. It wasn't, let's get this done now because I said it. Doge, you're on the clock. That's the difference that I'm making. I don't even know what straw man argument you're bringing up, or if you're not listening properly, or whatever the case may be. So yes, I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, I wanted to say this too also, right? Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, Dark MAGA. That's what he started calling himself, Dark MAGA. Like you know, as if he was like Dark Vader or somebody, but he's not MAGA. He's just Dark MAGA. You remember the marriage started off so good. Donald Trump was over there kiki and kakaing with him. You coming in there. You just fired people. You fired people. You know, I like the way you do it, Elon. You know, you give me what you got for a pork chat. You know, also all this old nose what Reggie called it, knee walking stuff. All this old knee walking stuff, right? But now there's trouble in paradise. There's trouble in paradise. There's no more of this.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone. And you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it.
He called that man Muhammad Ali. You are the greatest. And that right there, or this.
Elon Musk!
I'm not just MAGA. I'm dark, gothic MAGA. Well, the energy in this room is incredible. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing. You guys are awesome.
You guys are awesome. How about a Nazi salute? But how do you go from that? How do you go from that marriage to somebody, you know, posted Elon Musk getting his toes sucked by Donald Trump? How do you go from that to the current state? You ask me. The same way anybody in Donald Trump's administration goes to being an outsider, whether it be Omarosa, you know what I mean, or the VP, whatever happened to that guy? Because last time I checked, they were January 6th, they were chanting "Hang Mike Pence," and Donald Trump was trying to justify it. But the same way anybody gets excommunicado from Donald Trump's administration, you criticize him. Elon, you want to take a shot at this?
The president is now facing criticism from an unexpected source, billionaire Elon Musk. Musk, the Doge chief who was tasked with slashing the federal government, is critical of the president's so-called big, beautiful spending bill. Here's what he told David Pogue for CBS Sunday Morning.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, doesn't decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along, I mean, like, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
Boom! Oh snap! Elon Musk cut on Trump. A bill can be big and beautiful, but it can be both. And he's undermining all this hard work and Doge that we put in, lying about the numbers that we were saving. Yes, because Donald Trump is just like any other corrupted politician. He's the lobbyist that's in office right now. Before, the lobbyists used to go to the politician and pay them. He's cut off the middleman, and now he's the lobbyist that's in office, that's in power. There is no middleman. That's why he looks out for his buddies. That's why his buddies are happy that he's the president right now. They don't make it a secret. They're out there chanting it from the top of the mountain.
Tim Cook has been seen supping solicitously at Mar-a-Lago, while Mark Zuckerberg has donated $1 million to the president-elect's inaugural budget.
I'm actually very optimistic this time around. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we can help him do that, he's going to help. So, like I said, the way to get on Trump's bad side is to criticize anything he does, because in his mind, he's perfect, stable genius. He's a stable genius, right? And all that good stuff with a dead dyed raccoon on his head. That's thinning. Like how you have a wig that's thinning. But that guy, right? He responded to Elon Musk. And like I said, trouble in paradise. This is what he had to say to Elon.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting.
I don't know if you guys could see this lady right here that looks like her face can't move, like she can't smile or anything because she has so much Botox. She looks like the white woman from Mars Attacks. You remember when they took the head off the white woman and put it onto the dog's body and vice versa? This woman was on Fox News. She's now in Trump's cabinet. Just all the anchors that work in news and television that agrees with him, that's been kissing up to him for years, get positioned. Vince McMahon can't even own WWE because he's so gruesome, but his wife is over the Department of Education, just handing out jobs to draining the swamp. Like I said, he's draining the swamp and filling it with fresh salt water because that's what crocodiles need to survive.
We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was we have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle income people of our country, low and middle income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an.
I believe this is what Trump called the weave, where he didn't answer a question. When it was Kamala Harris and she didn't answer, or y'all didn't like the answer she gave, it was a word salad. When Donald Trump does it, it's the weave, it's the weave. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. But ultimately, he said all that to say the reality, and this is the reality of the situation.
I don't know if you heard, but Elon's out.
You heard, but Elon's out. Word tonight from the man himself, Elon Musk, leaving his role as top advisor for the Trump administration. For the last 4 months, we know Musk has been spearheading efforts to reduce waste and fraud in federal government with the Doge effort. The billionaire posted, though, the Social X platform that he owns, saying, as my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, I would like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. The Doge mission will only strengthen, he says, over time as it becomes a way of life throughout the government.
All right. Our monitors say.
So there you heard it. Elon Musk was fired for giving his opinion against Donald Trump. Frank, I'm going to put you in timeout as of now because you're slow. You should be here to learn instead of teaching. Going to put you in timeout, and if you don't like it, you could just leave. You're in the chat arguing with yourself, and you're not going to come here and derail. You're going to be here to learn, brother, because y'all elected this clown. Y'all elected this clown, this third generation immigrant that hired another immigrant that eliminated American jobs, even though it's American first, right? Eliminated American jobs. And Twitter thought that would be a good strategy for the federal government. That is absolutely slow, right? Then on top of that, after doing all this elimination of waste, fraud, and abuse, right? They would later come back, right, and try to pass Trump's big, beautiful bill that Elon even criticized himself because the bureaucracy that they hired him and wasteful spending to get rid of, he's seen a lot of that in the bill, right? And even it was to the point where Elon Musk had to go out there and throw some jabs at Donald Trump and be like, wait, what did I waste my time firing these Americans for? But this is actually what's in the bill. Check it out.
Take us to Capitol Hill because lawmakers will be back in that building tomorrow, right? Following a Memorial Day recess. Senators are gearing up this week to take up the president's one big, beautiful bill. The plan is to get it to his desk by July 4th. The president has one message for those lawmakers ahead of that. Let's listen.
Well, I want the Senate and the senators to change, to make the changes they want, and we'll go back to the House and we'll see if we can get them. In some cases, those changes maybe are something I'd agree with, to be honest. It happens. But we've had a very good response from the Senate, and I don't know how Democrats can't vote for it. If they don't vote for it, they're talking about a 68% tax increase. Remember that. If the Democrats don't vote, it's a 68% tax increase, which is ridiculous. And one of the things that's being covered indirectly is the fact that we'll be lowering the cost of drugs from 50 to 85% under Trump. And it's going to have indirectly something to do, not directly, but indirectly something to do with the bill, the one big, beautiful bill. And it is a big, beautiful bill. And so I think the Senate is going to get there. I hope they're going to get there.
So let's talk about that bill as it stands right now. At the center of the legislation, tax cuts and extensions. It includes no taxes on tips for workers in the service industry like restaurants and bars, and for individuals who work in the beauty industry. It also includes no taxes on overtime. Both of these extensions will not expire.
Now the taxes on tip stuff, that is weird to me, only because I was I checked with ChatGTP and used verified sources and discussed with and that's what I discussed with. That's basically my team over here. Is me, people I love, and ChatGTP, right? And when I was having talks with them about the bill and what it says on tax on tips, it basically said that tax on tips only goes for cash. And I'm like, Donald Trump doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. They don't pay any taxes on those tips. Right? They take that home. If you're a waitress and somebody tips you $100, you don't pay taxes on that $100. You take it home. Now, what they will do is places like Chili's, right, will have mandatory tips where you tip them and they split it amongst the people that are working, right? And they have places like that. But those tips don't even count in no tax on tips. So what was the point of even putting it in the bill? If it's already happening again, Donald Trump is the king of this, right? Joe Biden puts in medications and lower the cost for medication. Donald Trump gets in there, signs an executive order to get rid of it, right? Then he signs another executive order to lower it again, right? He's a guy that goes around starting fires and then will show up with the firefighters and put it out and say, see, I told you I'm competent. His competency is based on starting fires and putting them out and saying that I'm the best guy around for putting out this fire. If it's the tariffs on China, right? Stock markets, they go down, right? He goes and says, well, I'm going to negotiate with them and put a pause to it. He puts a pause to it, stock market jumps back up. I told you I'm a genius, but you caused the fire. You can't do that. And listen, his team of supporters will come out and support him no matter what he does.
Until the end of 2028. And then there's this. Tax deductions on up to $10,000 in interest on auto loans for cars assembled here in the United States. This provision would be in place until 2029. And finally, the legislation is set to also eliminate a long-standing $200 tax on gun silencers. That's been on the books now for over 90 years. The bill also creates a $1,000 savings account for children named Trump accounts. Under this plan, the federal government would contribute $1,000 to the accounts of children born between 2024 and 2028. All right, let's bring in Anne Margaret Carrozza, an asset protection attorney and former New York State Assemblywoman. And thank you so much for joining us. Let's start there. We know parents would be able to contribute $5,000 a year to the funds, and it could be for higher education.
Well, this week, President Trump's sweeping budget package cleared the House after a marathon overnight session. In a razor-thin vote, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill survived weeks of internal wrangling. The bill advances to the Senate, where it's expected to face even more challenges. Nicole Killian has more on what the bill actually funds and how Americans will pay for it.
The bill is passed.
It was a race to the finish as House Republicans advanced President Trump's signature legislation before the Memorial Day recess.
This one big beautiful bill is the most consequential legislation that any party has ever passed.
This is one big, ugly bill that House Republicans are trying to jam down the throats of the American people.
The House cleared the massive package with only one vote to spare. It funds the president's top priorities from defense and energy to border security, including the wall. It also extends his 2017 tax cuts, boosting the child tax credit to $2,500, establishes $1,000 Trump savings accounts for newborns, and adds populist proposals the president campaigned on, like no tax on tips or overtime. But to pay for the roughly $4 trillion measure, the bill mandates at least $1.5 trillion in spending cuts, including reforms to Medicaid, with new work requirements set to take effect by the end of next year.
All I want is one thing, 3 words. We don't want any waste, fraud, or abuse. Very simple. Waste, fraud, abuse. Other than that, we're leaving it.
The bill also.
We don't want any waste, fraud, and abuse. Other than that, we're leaving it. So to Jason, he said, I know more about the economy and making deals than Donald Trump. Let me tell you something, Jason, and you MAGA people with 3 teeth in your mouth that can't use Medicare and Medicaid because Donald Trump is going to cut those those programs. You know, let me tell you something. The idea that the country should be ran like a business is really stupid. Right? Because in business, you want to maximize profit, right? That's what's wrong with America, right? The bureaucracy y'all say y'all hate, it's because in this pure capitalist society that we have, they lean on the government through subsidies, and always the taxpayer always foots the bill for these subsidies for these corporations. So they take risks with the economy, i.e. the housing market, you know what I mean? The stock market, whatever the case may be, we're always footing the bill for those guys, right? The last president that we had that had a degree in business was George W. Bush. How did that work out? Republican businessman, right? I believe George W. Bush has a bachelor's. Don't quote me. I don't know. It might be a bachelor's, but he has a degree in business. And George W. Bush put us in a recession. So this idea that the country should be ran like a business is far-fetched, right? And these deals that Donald Trump is making, he wrote a book called Art of the Deal, and the deals that were in the book don't even exist now. The man lost a casino. How do you lose a casino where people bring you money? That doesn't worry you the least bit that he's messing with the world's economy now, and the guy like bankrupted a casino. That doesn't worry you. If that don't worry you, I don't know what to tell you. Hey, I would suggest that you jump out of this cult and start thinking for yourself. So yeah.
Also slashes about $267 billion from SNAP, or the Supplemental Food Assistance Program, which includes food stamps.
You campaigned on lowering the price of groceries. How do you justify cutting food assistance in this bill?
Let me just tell you, the cut is going to give everybody much more food because prices are coming way down. Groceries are down.
Is that what you're seeing when you go to the store?
No, ma'am. I usually buy the 5 dozen eggs to last for a month. Well, they're 25. They used to be $7.97.
Hattie Temple is on Medicaid and food stamps, receiving about $60 a month.
How do you stretch that? What do you typically use the food stamps for?
I'll go buy me 2 meat packs. I'm not eating fancy. I'm just eating.
She traveled from Arkansas to Washington this week, along with others around the country, to lobby lawmakers. And she may return again as the Senate takes up the bill next.
You're supposed to go fight for yourself. You can't sit down and be quiet.
Some senators have suggested making changes to the legislation, but time is of essence. GOP leaders have made clear they'd like to get the bill to the president's desk by July 4th. For CBS Saturday Morning, Nicole Killian, Capitol Hill.
Yeah, these are some of those people that are actually out there buying eggs, and it's crazy to me. Like I said, the whole idea of you had Republicans out there, talking about, waste, fraud, and abuse, and how people are getting over the age of 100 are getting Social Security, and they knew that was not true. Then you had a Republican on TV saying this.
Would you support getting rid of, school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of childhood cancer research? Do you support that? And what do you say to your constituents? I want to follow up on that question too, because I didn't hear an answer from you.
Sure. So I'm an ER doc, and I know that philanthropy is where you get most of your money for childhood cancer research, for example. And it's not just you look at what the president just proposed, a $500 billion spending bill on AI to produce cancer early detection in the first stage on most body parts. That's his spending bill, where he wants to increase cancer research. So it's just about what part of the money it comes out of. When you talk about school lunches, hey, I worked my way through high school. I don't know about you, but I worked since I was, before I was even 13 years old. I was picking berries in the field before we had child labor laws that precluded that. I was a paper boy. And when I was in high school, I worked my entire way through. You're telling me that kids who stay at home, instead of going to work at Burger King, McDonald's during the summer, should stay at home and get their free lunch instead of going to work? I think we need to have a top-down review.
I think you're painting a lot of these kids with a broad brush. I would say that's not necessarily a fair assessment of all of the kids. So you would say all the kids in your district who use the free lunch, for example, or breakfast, they're all just sitting at home and not working. Okay, I just want to clarify, because that seems like what you were trying to insinuate.
This gives us a chance. This gives us a chance, though, to see where is the money really being spent. Who can actually go and actually produce their own income? Who can actually go out there and do something that makes them have value and work skills for the future? I mean, how many people got their start in fast food restaurants when they were kids versus just giving a blanket rule that gives all kids lunches in high school who are capable of going out and actually getting a job and doing something that makes them have value, thinking about their future instead of thinking about how they're going to sponge off the government when they don't need to. We don't give people value. We don't give them the ability to dig themselves out when we penalize them for actually working and actually keep them on welfare. That's what's been the inner city problem for a very long time. We need to have a top-down review so we can get people out of poverty, because you know what? America's very good at creating jobs and giving people worth. And we've been very traditionally good at that, but we're losing our way. And that's when we give people incentives to stay at home and not work. That doesn't work for America.
But a lot of these kids aren't even of working age. They're young kids, and as you well know, and also some of the kids at Head Start, they're like 5 and under. But I just want to ask you, because
I love it. Reminiscing about the good old days where there were child labor laws, but you still can break them and send those freeloading 5-year-olds off to work. You know what I mean? Instead of staying at home. And it's so funny. He talked about the climate and how you incentivize lazy behavior for these non-working 13-year-olds and 5-year-olds, right? But he never talked about incentivizing rich people through subsidies. They crashed our economy and was bailed out, right? That's what Protest Wall Street was about. And Barack Obama claimed he was an outsider, right? Turns out he was just a moderate. Donald Trump claimed to be an outsider when he probably would be on the opposite side. Those people that crashed the economy are his buddies, right? And that guy is and his administration and that agrees with everything he says. They're saying like, well, you can't incentivize poor people. You can't give them anything. You can't do that. You just can't do that. So I thought this was really funny, right? So a guy in the comment section said this. He said, don't listen to liberals. It's so funny to me that anybody that disagrees with y'all is a liberal, right? That's crazy. And y'all claim that y'all are independents because y'all don't want to admit that y'all are brainwashed, right? But anybody who disagrees with y'all are liberals, right? Say liberals don't understand the difference between a man and a woman. And I'd say that you got took for everything that you own, LBJ style, right? They convince you that less than 1% of the population was the problem in the world, right? That transgenders trying to compete in fencing, right? It's hilarious. Is the problem. And transgenders using bathrooms is the problem. And transgenders are less than 1% of the population. They convinced you that they were the problem with the world and you bought it because you're so smart, right? Meanwhile, the policies that Trump are putting into place are directly affecting your life, whether it be, school shutting down because of the Department of Education defunding them, because that's happening. Hospitals are shutting down right now because the nonprofit ones, right, that existed, that was getting subsidies from the government, Elon came in with Doge and cut those off. So those are shutting down. That's going to have consequences. Firing the people who work for Veteran Affairs, firing those people when they already didn't have a good system to begin with is going to have blowback. And I don't want to hear because the next president is going to be a Democrat. That's how that works. A Republican gets in, makes up the economy. Democrat gets in and balances the budget. And it's just an ongoing circle. I don't want to hear when they're balancing the budget, well, Trump's not president. Because when we bring up talking points right now about his first 100 days and the repercussions of his executive orders, what y'all say is, well, what about Biden? What about Kamala? Kamala's never been president, but y'all still bring her up. This is crazy. This is crazy, man. You can't make this up. Y'all are worried about immigrants. Y'all are worried about transgenders. That's what's going to solve the economy. So if we got rid of all the immigrants and all the transgenders, America would just be free flowing and loving. You've been duped. What they say, hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. You've been all of those things. You've been tricked.
Are promising a fight as President Trump's big, beautiful budget bill faces 3 major tests starting today. A trio of House committees will try to iron out the details of a package that includes massive tax cuts and sweeping changes to programs like Medicaid and food stamps. News 8's Joe Khalil is live for us following it all on Capitol Hill. So, Joe, this is legislation that could potentially have a big impact for a long time to come.
Yeah, that's not an overstatement at all. If this bill does become law, Nicole, it is going to fundamentally impact every American, the way that we are taxed, our tax bill at the end of the year, several people in terms of their jobs and how they are paid. It's also going to have significant impacts to the way the government spends money and national defense.
So Live to Love said, I had to pay taxes on my cash tips. Only way to qualify for my credit to buy a home. I'm willing to guess, unless you work in a super duper busy area downtown or something, that your tips, because they're not mandatory, and most people don't, well, I ain't say most people, a lot of people don't tip, right? It's not enough to live on. And I guarantee that even if you do the right thing and report it, there's probably you're probably in the minority of reporting it. Most people just take they cash and go home, because like I said, I don't know what y'all do. I live in the great state of Texas, and I've worked security for places that have waitresses, and they don't report that. They put their cash in their pocket and they go home. Simple as that. So maybe you are in a small minority, but that's not the overall. Your experience is not the experience.
So those are the stakes here. This is a very big deal. And you're right, today on Capitol Hill is probably the most important day so far in the life of this legislation, because you've got three different committees all working to sort of take care of their piece, their portion of this bill. So two of those three committees, they are meeting now, actually, as I'm talking to you. Let's remind folks what actually is in this bill in different chunks of it. We're talking about here $4.5 trillion to $5 trillion in tax cuts, talking about $1.5 trillion in spending cuts, and then, of course, hundreds of billions of dollars more going to the border and to national defense. So all of that, very important. Let's remember, though, what you have here are also President Trump's promises from the campaign trail to lower taxes significantly and to propose new ideas. For example, we're talking about eliminating all taxes on tips for most workers, eliminating several other taxes that already exist that are currently in place right now. These are the kinds of things that are very popular politically. No taxes on overtime work, for example. However, the details matter, because while tax cuts are popular, the question is how you pay for it. And those are the details that are going to be worked out today. Those are where Republicans themselves have been sort of disputing each other, different camps with different interests from different states. That's where the rubber here really meets the road. How do you pay for it? These are the suggested cuts in spending that would make these things possible here. Medicaid, $880 billion right now is seeking to be cut by Republicans. Some of that may have to come out of Medicaid. And there are several Democrats and even some independent agencies saying that could mean millions of people lose their coverage. Republicans promising that is not going to happen. Independent analyses say differently. And then food stamps, or the SNAP program. Food assistance is going to be restructured. So much of the money coming from the federal government is now going to be left for states to pay for themselves if this bill passes. And then you've got several climate proposals, several climate initiatives and tax breaks that the Biden administration put in place that are going to be clawed back if this bill passes, that to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. So all of those spending cuts are historic. And if they pass in this way, that is how Republicans say they will pay for the tax cuts they are trying to put in place here.
All right, Joe Khalil live for us there in D.C. following it all. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone.
Members of the U.S. House of Representatives pulled an all-nighter that ended with the passage of President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill this morning. It now heads to the Senate after passing by one vote. The bill extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts, lifts the federal tax on tips and overtime, and sets aside nearly $50 billion to resume construction on the border wall. It also slashes federal spending by more than $1.5 trillion, including cuts to Medicaid and SNAP benefits. Only two Republicans joined all Democrats in opposing the bill. Neither is from Indiana. WRTV's Meredith Hackler spoke to Hoosiers who have concerns about the bill as it moves forward. So, Meredith, what are you learning about those concerns?
Well, Nicole, you mentioned slashes to the federal spending by more than $1.5 trillion. According to the Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan group, those cuts would significantly impact SNAP, often referred to as food stamps, and Medicaid, two programs used by thousands of Hoosiers. According to Feeding America, nearly 50 million people across the country are facing food insecurity, a statistic they say is the highest in over a decade. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the Big Beautiful Bill will reduce federal spending for SNAP by $267 billion.
The bill requires states to have skin in the game on SNAP. The bill requires states to be more responsible about how Medicaid is funded. The bill provides needed tax relief for seniors. These are good things that reduce the size and scope of a federal government that is encroaching on the everyday lives of Americans.
That's the argument from the GOP, that it reduces federal spending. But data from Feeding America says the cost shift to Indiana would cost $356 million. The state would also have to pick up administrative costs. Right now, the federal government pays 50% of those costs. Under the bill, Indiana would have to pay 70%, which adds up to $46 million.
Our member food banks and their network of community kitchens and faith-based partners and pantries, we're doing everything that we can.
So the states who are already begging for funding from the government, who are already stretched thin because these immigrants was taking so much advantage of them, are now required to take care of Americans. Can't make this up. Cannot make this up. This is why this whole idea of just leave it to the states, it's like, bro, it's not the old days anymore, bro. Like leaving it up to the states is not where it is. The government is responsible for our drinking water. They run our military. They're responsible for a lot of things. If you trust them with big jobs, then why is it get the government out of my life? If you ever analyze how much of your life involves the government, you cry. You cry like they're involved in everything from the lead inside of the pencils. You know what I mean? Everything. FDA approved. What do you think that means? Like, come on, man. Like this is crazy, bro. But he said, so you spent the last 4 years saying Biden was okay and the best. Clayton, stop. I'm gonna block you if you stop. Clayton, you haven't even been on my channel the last 4 years. How do you know what I've been saying? You come over here with these talking points that you got for Fox News, and you come already framing the argument the way you want to frame it. You don't know what I've been saying the last 4 years. You know how I know? Because you're new to the channel. You know what I mean? And if you are a regular, you just started coming here maybe a couple months. So you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what I've been talking about the last 4 years. That's number one. Then he said, so you shouldn't worry about the less than 1% of people. Well, let me do some math for you because you people seem to be bad at math, right? Boxer. We'll take boxing, for instance, right? Boxers are less than 1% of the population, especially ones that actually go pro. So, 1% of the population. So 1% of the population actually boxes professional, right? So the transgenders that are 1%, what percent of the less than 1% do you think are transgenders that aspire to be boxers? And how does that affect your life? It's so crazy to me that y'all focus on the less than 1%. When it comes to Social Security is the most effective social program that there's ever been in the history of man, with a less than 1% margin of error, right? That y'all spend too much time, because y'all are bad at math, focusing on the less than 1%. The 1% of transgenders, the 1% of people who do fraud and Social Security. Y'all spend too much time focusing on the 1%. That is absolute crazy. Like, so y'all focus on the 1%. Y'all should go to the Mari show and beat up Mari, because the results of the test be 99.9999. Y'all, since y'all focus on the 1%, worry about the 1% that ain't theirs. Y'all are so slow to me. So slow to me. Come over here with these built-in talking points. Swear to God that y'all are the most informed in the room at all times, and it's always the opposite. Y'all don't know what y'all are talking about. Everything is fake news that challenges your what you already believe or what Trump told you. There's nothing that Trump could do. Literally, I seen protesters being interviewed, and they asked him. They said, Trump said that he wants to be a king. He wants to do this, he wants to do that. And everybody that was a MAGA supporter was like, well, he should be a king. Well, what's wrong with that? It's like nothing he could do. There's nothing he could do where you would be rational minded about it. That's what a cult is. He's y'all's Jim Jones.
And to meet the rising demand, but the federal nutrition programs provide an unmatched scale and an efficiency that people can access to find the food that they need.
As for Medicaid, the Congressional Budget Office says that federal subsidies will be reduced by $698 billion. Jennifer DeWitt's son, Jackson, has severe medical complexities. His feeding tube alone costs $3,500 a month. It's not covered by her employer's health insurance. With costs being shifted to the state, she's worried for her son.
Really need to step back and take a look and see who all this is going to end up impacting, because it's not just going to be this handful of people that we want to target, right? Like, it's going to have a huge ripple effect, and it's going to have massive consequences.
Congressman Andre Carson proposed an amendment to trigger an audit to see how many people on Medicaid and SNAP would be impacted, but it failed. And the GOP continues to say that those who need the programs the most will not be impacted, but groups like Feeding America and the American Cancer Society say it will. This bill still must pass the Senate before it gets to the president's desk for a signature. Nicole?
All right, a lot to
Silliest stuff in the world. You got people in the chat talking about they'll vote for Trump in 2028. After the first 100 days, he's crashed the stock, made the stock market go down to more than 1,000 points. You know, signed executive orders to get rid of the Department of Education. You know, this man has did everything he's like in his power to wreck the economy. And people were talking about 2028. If at this rate, if he does 4 years, I don't even know if we have a country in 2028. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you MAGA supporters, hey, you know, y'all believe in trickle down economics. Y'all are really, really bad at math, you know, and he's cutting Medicare and Medicaid. So, hey, we know who the number one recipients of SNAP and all of those things are. You know what I mean? You have to adjust for population. It's still going to affect y'all way more, way worse than everybody else. So we just going to see about that. We're going to see how that goes. What's up, Bernie? So when 1% of the blacks that are being killed by cops, should it matter, huh? Bro, that is called a straw man argument. Why can't y'all focus on we're talking about the president. We are talking about the economy. We're not talking about cops. We're not talking about Kamala. We're not talking about Joe Biden's sickness. We're not talking about Joe Biden. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about what we are talking about, which is Donald Trump and his effect on the economy. We're talking about Doge that was unconstitutional that y'all supported and said we needed, and how he's undermining that now with his policies to the point where the guy who was the head of Doge was criticizing him. That's what we're talking about. So, like I said, I know y'all have focus issues. I don't know if y'all finished school, you know what I mean? Because Trump said, I love the poorly educated. But yes, that guy, Donald Trump, is spending more than Joe Biden spent.
Government has spent about $220 billion more in President Trump's first 100 days in office than it did during the same period of time last year. So this despite promises to cut spending. So CBS News analyzed the Treasury Department's daily financial reports to track the money. CBS News Vice President of Data and Journalism, John Kelly, is joining us live now to break down all of these numbers. Glad you can do that for us. What are the main sources of the increase in your number crunching?
You know, the increases are really the things that we know are big ticket spending items consistently over the past decade or decades. Medicare, Social Security, and the military and veterans benefits. Those things have continued to increase as the population ages. And there are things that are intractable problems and issues that many Congresses and many administrations have struggled to get a handle on, and they increase at large numbers that are really hard to catch up with if the cutting is happening in other areas. And then the biggest one, the one that's growing exponentially, is the payments to pay down Treasury securities, so paying off the national debt. The amount that has gone up just in this first few months is $30 billion versus just a year ago. That amount has doubled in just 3 years. And that's a product of the debt itself growing.
This is why Donald Trump loves the poorly educated, right? The guy in the comment section, right? The army guy, right? He basically said that that I'm bought and paid for by the New World Order. Bro, did you see Trump's inauguration? All the richest people in the world were there, including the top 1% of America. You could have took the wealth that was at Donald Trump's inauguration, bro, and bought and sold America 100 times. What are you talking? The New World Order. He's the New World Order. Like when are you gonna wake up? And like, what are you talking about, bro?
But also the interest rate struggles that we've seen recently that are affecting consumers across the country, those also affect the government's debt.
Now, Doge claims they cut $160 billion in funding. So what did you find?
Sure. We looked at that the claims that the Department of Government Efficiency has made, and we did that in partnership with CBS News Confirmed, and we were looking to understand, how much of that is real, how much of that can be documented. And the department has a website where they cite the numbers, and those numbers, only about 40%, less than 40% of what has been claimed as saved is itemized in a way that you can really check into it. But more than that, we wanted to be able to compare that against where the cuts were happening, and they're not happening in those big spending areas we just talked about that make up about 2/3 of the government spending. They're also really small in comparison to, say, the annual spending of the government. They make up, that 160 billion would be about 2% of what the government spends on average over the last 5 years in 1 year. That would be like a family with, say, $10,000 in monthly bills deciding to trim their spending by $200.
All right, John Kelly. John, thank you.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem made headlines during her testimony to the Senate Homeland Security Committee Tuesday when she incorrectly answered what the fundamental U.S. right known as habeas corpus means.
So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
The concept of habeas corpus dates back to the Magna Carta. It is the right of prisoners to challenge their imprisonment, allowing them to ask a judge to issue a writ of habeas corpus, essentially a court order, demanding that whoever is detaining them prove in court that their detention is lawful. If a judge finds that is not the case, the prisoner must be freed. This right is explicitly granted in the first article of the Constitution, saying, quote, the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. The Supreme Court has
My bad. So I wanted to tell you guys this, right? Because you guys, I'm pretty sure you are aware of this, right? So to the poorly educated, now I'm not talking about the people that's smart. Like, I can tell by how you type in the chat if you got a little bit of logic to you, what I mean? If you're not a follower or a sheep or part of this cult that they call MAGA, right? But the people who work for ABC, they went to school for journalism. Not all of them, but most of them, right? And they're educated. They teach you in college that whenever you report on stuff, when you're reporting stuff to be absolute fact, a lot of times you got to use peer-reviewed data. You know what I mean? When they talk about health, they use peer-reviewed data. Donald Trump thought enough about ABC to do a debate Kamala on it, where he misspoke and said they're eating the cats and dogs. And he was immediately fact-checked on that, and he was wrong. And he still doubled down on that dumb comment of they're eating the cats and dogs, and the MAGA base ate it up. They started looking for proof on X. I seen videos. You guys don't understand. They are eating the cats and dogs. So funny. Like, if these immigrants are eating cats and dogs, then cats and dogs should be extinct where they're from, because according to Donald Trump, they come from a SHIT hole, right? So if they come from that and their diet is eating dogs, well, then there's no mass production over there like there is cattle over here, right? And pigs. So why aren't the dogs extinct over there? That's what their main diet is. Donald Trump's full of it. But like I said, he thought enough about ABC to go over there in the debate. And it's like all this fake news stuff. Like, Fox News has been sued for fake news coverage during the election. Like, what are we talking about? Like I said, that's why Donald Trump loves you people, because you guys not that smart. You're gonna back him up no matter what. And I'm bought and paid for by the New World. I'm gonna just be honest with you, Army. This is the funniest part about you capitalist clowns, right? That pretend like y'all love capitalism, but y'all don't. Y'all love corporatism, which is tax cuts for the rich, and there's only one party that actually goes out there and verbalizes that, no matter who the candidate is, and that's Republicans, right? But the funny part about y'all will say I'm bought and paid for by the New World Order. But if they offered you a check, you would say it was a smart business move and take it immediately, because that's what Donald Trump does. They offered him a plane, he took the plane. And here's the craziest part about it. Donald Trump has a tweet calling the people who gave him the plane terrorists. I'm just be honest with you. I know that he took that plane against his better judgment, like the people who inform him, the intelligence people. Because what if they put an explosive in that plane? Donald Trump has already had one assassination attempt from an American, excuse me. Well, Americans, because it was several attempts where people wanted him gone bad. They were Republicans too. Well, the one that shot at him. But it's so crazy to me, like that y'all would think out of the two, me and Donald Trump, the guy who has lobbied, who has given money to Kamala Harris's campaign before calling her corrupt, right? So she did a well enough job to where you donated to her when she was campaigning, right? Not once, but twice, and even your family members have given money to her. So that guy, right, is not corrupt, but I am a YouTuber who don't have 100,000 subs. I'm bought and paid for by the New World Order. Like, you can't make this up. If there was a New World Order and this was like the movie Don't Look Up, who would be the elite, me or Donald Trump? Like, you guys are crazy, man. Crazy. This guy's making buku money right now. Matter of fact, Donald Trump is making so much money in the government right now that, let me show you. See, people always say, I heard somebody say, Donald Trump doesn't work for his salary. He don't have to. Let me show you why. Bam. Let me show you why Donald Trump doesn't have to work for his salary. First off, the salary is peanuts compared to how much money he really makes off of the government, whether it be the stock market, Trump media, or whatever the case may be. He makes a buku money, right? But this is another way. You know what I mean? The Elon Musk strategy way.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, staff writer Zach Everson. Zach, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me back. A lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about, and you found this sort of roundabout way that flights the Secret Service was taking is somehow financially benefiting President Trump himself. So if you could you break down that flow chart a little bit for us?
Of course. So like all presidential candidates, the Secret Service pays reimburses the campaign for the airfare when it accompanies a candidate who gets Secret Service coverage. So we've seen this happen. George W. Bush, McCain, Obama, Clinton, all of that. What's different here is that Trump's campaign is renting the airplane from Trump's personal business. So what you have is the Secret Service paying. It's been about $13 million so far that they have paid the campaign. The campaign, in turn, has paid Trump's business $18 million. So, in this case, you're not just having the money go to a third-party vendor. You're having the money from the Secret Service, from the taxpayers, going to the president's business.
And 13 million, I mean, that is just a lot over the course of, I'm assuming 9 years, right? Since 2016, since President Trump was, okay. So, but talk to us.
But there is a gap in there. There is a multi-year gap in there because when he was president, they weren't paying to cover him because he was getting flown around on Air Force One. So.
See, that's what I mean. A dude with Slow in his name. This dude with Slow in his name said, that makes zero sense. If they were eating cats and dogs, they'd be extinct. So we have no pigs. Oh my God, bro. The reason why they call those Trump looks down on those places like that when he goes to visit those places is because they don't have mass production like we do. You know how we got chicken plants, we got pigs being slaughtered, we farmed them. We give them a bunch of antibiotics. They don't operate like that in those countries. And if they live in a country that's third world and starving and people are just starving for resources, what are they going to feed the dogs to have mass production of dogs? You following me now? I know you got Slow in your name, but are you following the logic now? If dogs, if they're hunting and killing dogs at this alarming rate to where they couldn't even help it when they came over to America, where they have options, where they don't have to eat cats and dogs because they're getting all these benefits that y'all claim they're getting, right? They're getting fed, they're getting hotel, they're getting $1,000 in food stamps, all of those things. Then why would they eat a dog? And then why isn't it a custom over there where you see mass production of it or you see the extinction of it? Because you can only have one or two. You either gonna have mass production where you're farming it, you know what I mean, livestock it, pushing it out, pumping them for the antibiotics, whatever the case may be, mass production. Or you just gonna have just, hey man, there's a dog right there. I ain't seen one of them in a while. Because what are the dogs eating? If everybody's over there starving and hungry, what are the dogs eating? That's the point I'm making to you. But like I said, I know it's gonna go over your head. Let's get back to the Trump's contracts.
You know, while it is going back to 2016, there are several years in there that they did not make any payments to the campaign at all. So it's probably for about, I don't know, 7 to 8 years right there is what the payments cover.
So, I mean, even more so, I think this proves the point that seems like a lot of money for even a shorter amount of time, as you're saying, because the years that he was flying Air Force One, Secret Service wasn't charging then. I mean, how does this stack up to, because you said other presidential candidates like George W. Bush, like President.
Like I said, Donald Trump has found a way to make money during, money through contracts. And then, you know, it's funny that you said that, Skeletor, about the chickening out. They asked him a question about it with the Mars Attack lady in the background with the tight skin. If she smiles, oh my God, that picture on the wall is gonna, like a rubber band, like it's gonna everybody's gonna get taken out.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out? Oh, and then I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145%?
I chicken out? I never heard that before. Nobody's ever told me that. The only person that criticized me was Elon, and you see what happened to him.
That I set down to 100 and then down to another number. And I said, you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia.
We have the hottest country in the world. What is he talking about? The hottest. He went to Saudi Arabia. They told him, hey, man, you know, America was so cold before you got in. And with your orange skin, man, it was like the sun. It made it a hot economy, bro. It's crazy, bro. This guy is mad.
The hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive. And you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, you know, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, you know, a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things. And you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever. And they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice.
What? Oh, you can't make the 145 was in. You implemented, like I said, you can't make this up. This guy was a president before, right? Made a deal with Canada, right? Then got back in, right? And said, whoever made the deal before me was an idiot. And you just facepalm like, bro, it was you. This is what I mean by Trump runs around starting fires. You know what I mean? He's the fire starter. That's why he's so orange, because that's the blowback from the fires, right? And then he puts the fires out and proclaims himself to be a stable genius and a hero. But that's not how that works. Stop starting the fires, Mr. Trump. It's simple as that. Listen, this guy is the worst president that we've ever had, hands down, whether it comes to accepting planes or any of that stuff. But what's up, Marcus? What's up, Surfout player? But yeah, man. In closing, man, because I want to keep this in under 2 hours so it can have playback value. We'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow, late night, early morning. You know what I mean? With another episode. I got a good one for y'all tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit less light. Lighter. It's not going to be politics. I'll do the politics episode after that, just so it's not overwhelming. But I actually opened up the panel. I wanted to rock by myself today. I wanted to rock by myself so that it had playback value, and I ain't debating with nobody. There's no cussing. You know what I mean? We got people getting informed, and we're getting at the same time we got playback value where it's monetized. So there'll be commercials like a real show. So yeah, that's why I'm happy that we did it like that today. I appreciate you said good content. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and end it. We'll end it on a good note. Something that we could all agree upon, that Donald Trump is a stable genius. He's a stable genius, and all this DEI talk, that's his entire cabinet, he definitely needs cognitive tests like he suggested for Joe Biden, but I'll let him take you guys home. Appreciate everybody pulling up. People that disagree, y'all gotta listen. We allow people to disagree on here. You just gotta be a little bit more. You gotta be careful, man. Like I don't misinformation. I'm really big on that. I'm really big on just spamming the chat with fake news, not articulating yourself. But normally we open up the panel. Like I said, I wanted to rock by myself. But the next political episode, I'll open up the panel. You guys will be free to join the conversation if you want. If you don't, you can just stay in the chat and troll, as long as you're respectful. You know what I mean? Or as long as I'm just not in the mood. Some days I'm not in the mood and you will get blocked. I'm just being honest with you. You know what I mean? It's a privilege to be over. It's not a right. That's anywhere, especially we strict constitutionalists believe in that, right? But yeah, so we'll let Donald Trump take you guys home. Appreciate everybody for pulling up. But anyway, Sabak Scholar, and I'm out.
I don't think if you gave him a quiz, I think he should take a cognitive test like I did. I took a cognitive test and I aced it. Dr. Ronnie Johnson. Does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas?
Dr. Ronnie Jackson. And I'm the congressman from the 13th Congressional District of the great state of Texas.
I think I'll show it. Should I show it? I don't know if you can see it. Look. Tic Tacs. What? This is what inflation does. This is what inflation does. This is what inflation. Okay? Look. Not good, right? But that's it. I kid. But there really is no kidding. It's serious. People can't live.
Happened. I just happened to have somebody gave me this one today. I said, I think we'll put it up as an example of inflation.
And that's what you had as your example of inflation, and wonder why egg prices didn't go down day one, and why Vladimir Putin played Donald Trump exactly like Kamala Harris predicted. But I'm out.
Superstar, wish to have a fancy car, wish to have $1 million bucks. Well, I wish I don't be in love. So feel me, pretty baby. I make one wish and I wish it all on you. Make it love to the break of dawn. Me and you to the baby's born. Till my baby's born.